Good morning, everyone. In the last session, we discussed about what is infrastructure and what is on-premises infrastructure and what is cloud infrastructure. What are the challenges with the on-prem infrastructure and why we need to go for cloud infrastructure. All those things we have discussed in the last session. Okay, fine. And we also discussed what is AWS cloud and what are the services available in the AWS cloud. Okay, good. So in the AWS is providing IT infrastructure for rent. So many companies are available in the market. These companies are developing the projects. In order to develop and run the projects, we need some infrastructure. That infrastructure will be provided by AWS cloud. Okay, AWS providing the infrastructure through web. That's why it is called Amazon Web Services. So whatever the resources that you need, like virtual machines, database, storage, network, okay, all those things will be provided by AWS cloud. In order to provide infrastructure in the AWS cloud, there are so many services available. Okay, what are the services available in the AWS cloud? Okay, so the services here, EC2 service is available. Okay, and S3 service is available, RDS is available, IAM is available, EC2 is available, S3 is available, RDS is available, IAM available, VPC available, Route 53 is available, EKS available, Beanstack available, Lambdas available, and CloudWatch is also available. So what is the meaning of EC2 here? EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud, which is used to create virtual servers in the AWS cloud. And similarly, S3 available. S3 stands for Simple Storage Service, which is used to provide unlimited storage in the AWS cloud. And the next one, RDS is available. RDS is used for relational database service. Okay, and IAM is available, which is for identity and access management. Identity and access management. Okay, and next one, VPC available, which is used to create virtual network in the AWS cloud. But to create virtual network in the AWS cloud, we are using this one. And the next one, Route 53, which is used for DNS mapping. EKS available, Elastic Kubernetes Service, which is used to set up the Kubernetes cluster. Beanstack is available, which will provide platform as a service. Next one, Lambdas available, which are used for serverless computing. Okay, so and CloudWatch is available, which is used to monitor the resources. Okay, these all are the services that we are having in the AWS cloud. Now we need to understand these services, and for this one, I have given one AWS crash course video also. How many of you gone through that video of AWS crash course? Did you get the chance to go through that AWS crash course video, guys?
Yes.
So is it useful?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
So what you learned from that 30 minutes of AWS crash course video, guys? What you learned from that 30 minutes AWS crash course video?
How to set up EC2, RDBS, how to we need to create and what is the use of RDBS, EC2 and everything like this. As you said, like Route 53, it is domain mapping.
So I hope you got some knowledge on what is cloud computing and how to use cloud services in our project. Okay, good, fine. So now today let's understand one service called EC2, guys. Okay, EC2 is one of the most famous that every company will use in the AWS cloud. Okay, so in the AWS there are 200 plus services available. Out of those 200 services, the first service that we are going to learn is EC2. EC2 is one of the most famous service that is available in the AWS cloud. What is the meaning of EC2? The full form for the EC2. EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud, guys. EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud, And what is the purpose of this EC2? EC2 is used to create virtual servers, nothing but machines. In the real time, we need several machines for our project. We need a machine to run the Jenkins server. We need a machine to run the Docker server. We need a machine to run the SonarQube server. We need a machine to run the Kubernetes. Okay, so all these things we need. For that, we are going to use EC2. EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. EC2 is used to create virtual servers, nothing but the machines. Any machine that you need for your project, instead of you are purchasing those machines, you can take those machines for rent in the AWS cloud. So if you need machines for rent in the AWS cloud, then we can use EC2. EC2 is one of the most famous service that is available in the AWS cloud. And guys, in the AWS, they are giving the virtual machines. That means the servers that we need, they are giving for free of cost, right? Whatever the servers that they are providing, these servers are commercial, not free of cost. EC2 is not a free service. EC2 is a paid service. EC2 will provide hourly billing. Okay, that means if you use the EC2 machine per hour, bill will be calculated in the AWS cloud. So what is the meaning of per hour billing? Suppose for example, you have started the machine at 9 a.m. and you stopped that machine at 9:15 a.m. They will consider as 1 hour billing. Okay, EC2 is a paid service and minimum billing period is hourly basis. Okay, if you use the machine for 5 minutes also, they will calculate it as 1 hour billing. So again, you have started the same machine at 9:30 a.m. and you stopped it at 9:45 a.m. Again, they will consider that as 1 hour billing. Okay, started at 9 a.m. Started at 9 a.m. The machine started at 9 a.m. and stopped at 9:15 a.m. Stopped at 9:15 a.m. They will calculate as 1 hour. Again, you have started at 9:30 a.m. and you stopped at 9:45 a.m. They will calculate as another 1 hour billing. Suppose continuously if you use from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., 1 hour bill only will come. But at 9 a.m. you started and you stopped at 9:15. For 15 minutes you used that machine. But the minimum billing period in the AWS for EC2 is 1 hour. Okay, again you have started the same machine. Again you have started the same machine at 9:30 a.m. and you stopped it at 9:45 a.m. Then another 1 hour billing will be generated. Okay, so here, sir, do we need to pay the money to use this EC2 for our practice? No. To encourage learners, AWS provided T2 micro instance as free of cost for 1 year and monthly 750 hours of free will be available. Okay, EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud and that is used to create virtual machines in the AWS, and EC2 is one of the most famous service in the AWS cloud and it is a paid service. For this EC2, hourly billing will be available. So this machine, if you use for 10 minutes also, the 1 hour bill will be generated because in the AWS for EC2, the minimum billing period is 1 hour. So for our practice purpose, we can use the T2 micro machine, which is free of cost. First 1 year, T2 micro is free and monthly you can run that machine for 750 hours. Monthly you can run that machine for 750 hours in the AWS cloud. Okay, next one, EC2 components. When you want to create a EC2 machine, there are several components available. So what are the components we will use to create the EC2 machine? So to create one EC2 machine, guys, AMI will be available. Okay, instance type will be available. AMI instance type will be available, and the next one key pair will be available. We need to select a key pair will be, and we need to choose one VPC, and we need to choose the security groups. We need to choose the VPC. We need to select the security groups. Okay, and there will be a final component which is called EBS, which is a storage will be available. So if you want to create one EC2 instance in the AWS cloud, nothing but a virtual machine, if you want to create in the AWS cloud, these are the components that we are going to use. That means if you want to set up one EC2 instance, if you want to set up one EC2 instance, these many components comes into picture. For example, this is my EC2 VM. In order to set up this EC2 VM, we are going to use a component called AMI. AMI will be available. Then we are going to use a component called instance type. Instance type will be available. And the next one, we are going to use a component called key pair. We will be using a component called key pair in order to create our EC2 instance. AMI, instance type, and key pair will be available. And the next one, VPC component will be available. And next one, security groups component will be available. So by using all these resources, we are going to set up one EC2 instance. Security group will be available. And here for our machine, storage also will be available. So if you want to create one EC2 instance, then these many components we are going to use in the AWS cloud. With these components only, you can create our EC2 instance. AMI, instance type, key pair, then VPC, then security group, and then storage. So to create one EC2 instance, all these resources we have to set up. So can you guys look at this diagram? In the AWS cloud, EC2 service is available, which is used to create virtual machines. That means if you want to create some machines in the AWS cloud, then we are going to use EC2 for that. So EC2 machines, that means virtual servers. To create a EC2 machine in the AWS cloud, several resources we are going to use. What are those resources? One is AMI, second one is instance type, third one is key pair, fourth one is VPC, fifth one is security group, sixth one is storage. So by using all these resources, we can set up one machine in the AWS cloud. That machine can be a Windows machine, or that machine can be a Linux machine also. Now let's understand what is the meaning of this AMI, instance type, and all these details. So first one, AMI. AMI represents the machine type, what type of machine you want. So AMI represents software's configuration required for VM. So whatever the virtual machine that you are creating, for that virtual machine, what softwares are required, we will select by using AMI. So let me log in into AWS cloud. Let me show you the details. So when you want to set up a virtual machine, the first thing that you need to select is AMI only. AMI stands for Amazon Machine Image. AMI stands for Amazon Machine Image, which represents the software's configuration that we need for that machine. So you need a Windows machine, or you need Linux machine, or you need Mac OS machine, that we are going to select by using AMI only. So do you need a Windows machine? Do you need a Linux machine? Do you need a Mac machine? Those things we are going to select by using AMI only. So are you guys able to see my Amazon console here? Are you guys able to see my Amazon console here?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Now I am in the AWS. I want to create one virtual machine in the AWS. I'm selecting EC2. So when I go for EC2, there is an option called launch instance option is available. So when I click on this launch instance option, the first thing it is asking, give me a name for the machine. Give me a name for the machine. Then select AMI. AMI stands for Amazon Machine Image. And AMI is a template that contains a software configuration. That means for your machine, which operating system is required, okay, which application server is required, which applications are required in your machine, you can select by using AMI. I'm selecting Amazon Linux. You can select Ubuntu also. You can select Windows also. You can select Red Hat also. right? AMI represents software's configuration required for the virtual machine. You can select Windows AMI, Amazon Linux AMI, Ubuntu AMI, and similarly we are having Red Hat. For every Linux distribution, one separate AMI is available. So to create one EC2 instance, the very first thing that we need to do, select a AMI. Are you guys able to understand what is the meaning of AMI?
Yes, sir.
What is the meaning of AMI, guys?
Application.
What is the meaning of AMI?
Oh yes.
Amazon
Machine image.
machine image that represents what operating system required for the machine. We are creating what virtual machine in the AWS cloud, right? So what operating system you need for that machine, you can decide by using AMI. And the next one, instance type. Instance type nothing but what configuration you need for your machine. Okay, there are several instance types available in the AWS. T2 micro is available, okay, and T2 medium is available. T2 medium means two virtual CPUs, 4 GB memory will be available when you go for the T2 medium. So for these EC2 instances, as I told you, hourly billing will be available. Hourly billing will be available for Linux machine. Per hour, one billing methodology, one amount will be available. For Windows, one amount will be available. When you see Windows machines cost will be higher than Linux machines cost in the AWS cloud. But as we are learner, they are providing T2 micro for a free tier, which is 1 GB machine. 1 GB memory will be available for this T2 micro, very low configuration system. Just we will use it for our practice purpose, not for the real-time servers. In the real time, T2 micro will not be available because it is having only 1 GB memory. It will be very slow. So to avoid the billing, okay, to use free services, we are going to use this T2 micro concept. Are you clear with my point? So instance type. Instance type represents the machine configuration. What type of instance you want. T2 micro available with 1 GB, T2 medium with 1 GB, T2 large is also available. Now, T2 micro is free tier eligible. T2 micro is free tier eligible. So you can use it for free first 1 year. T2.micro instance is free tier eligible. Free tier eligible. 1 year and monthly 750 hours. Okay, if you use it for 30 days non-stop also, no problem, bill will not be generated because 30 days multiplied by 24 hours, around 720, 730 only. But AWS is giving monthly 750 hours you can run that machine. Okay, instance type will represent machine configuration, what configuration you need for that machine. And the next one, so if you observe, we are using T2 micro for our practice purpose. Going forward in future, when I'm going to set up Jenkins in the AWS cloud, okay, for Jenkins machine, 1 GB not sufficient. I need minimum 4 GB RAM to install Jenkins server. At that time, I will use T2 medium instance. Some bill amount will be generated. Okay, fine. When I go for Kubernetes also, T2 micro is not sufficient. I will go for medium instances, minimum 4 GB. But in the real time, people will use 8 GB, 16 GB, 32 GB. Okay, 64 GB RAM machines will be used in the real time projects for high performance. But for our practice, we are using T2 micro. Fine. I hope you got the clarity. What is AMI and what is instance type? AMI represents machine configuration, what softwares are required in that machine, what operating system required for that machine. There are several AMIs available in the AWS cloud. Based on the requirement, we can choose that. And the next one, instance type, which represents machine configuration. How many, how much GB RAM that you want. Okay, all those things you can decide by using instance type. And the next one, key pair. Key pair is used to secure the machines in the AWS cloud. So when I create a machine in the AWS cloud, other users should not be able to connect with my machine by using SSH client. Okay, whatever the machine that I am creating in the AWS cloud, by using public IP, we are accessing that machine. But I don't want other users to connect with my machine. Only I should connect with my machine. That's why there is a concept called key pair concept is available. So you can use a pair to securely connect your instance. Ensure that you have access to the selected key pair before you launch the instance. That means whatever the machine that you are creating, only you should connect with that machine. Other users should not connect with that machine. So to provide secured connection for the machine, we are using key pair concept. Public key and private key is used to establish secured connection with the EC2 VM. So whatever the machine I'm creating, only I should connect with that machine by using SSH client. Other people should not connect. Okay. Now, whenever you choose the key pair, there are two types of keys. One is public key, another one is private key. AWS will store the public key. AWS will store the public key, and AWS will provide private key for us. AWS will store public key. AWS will provide private key for us. Okay. So two types of keys will be available. One is the public key, another one is private key. So whenever you create a machine by selecting the key pair, then AWS will use public key and private key is used. It is used to establish secured connection with the EC2 VM. It is used to establish secured connection with the EC2 VM. AWS will store the public key and AWS will give the private key for us. And one more important thing here, guys, once I create a key pair, by using that key pair, we can create multiple EC2 instances also. Okay, whatever the key pair is available, by using that key pair, we can create multiple EC2 instances. There is no rule. If I create two machines, I need to use two different key pairs. No, nothing like that. So if you observe, in my AWS account, I have created several EC2 instances, and for those EC2 instances, I have used the same key pair. Okay, so there are 6 instances running in my AWS, 6 instances available in my AWS account in the Mumbai region. All are in the stopped state only now. So come here and you can see the key pair. For one machine, I used Ashok IT key pair. Remaining all machines, I am using AWS key pair only. AWS key pair, AWS key pair. So what is the meaning of that? If you create key pair once, by using one key pair, we can launch multiple instances also. By using one key pair, we can launch multiple instances also. That key pair we are downloading and we are keeping in one folder, so that when we want to connect with that machine, then we can use this key pair. So first time, when you want to connect with our EC2 instance, this PEM file is required. PEM file nothing but the private key will be available. PEM file nothing but the private key will be available. How to see the content of the PEM file? Open git bash here and read the content of the PEM file. By using cat command, we can print the content of the file, right? So in my Windows machine, I opened git bash from the location where my key pair is available. Cat space ashokit.pem file. Cat space ashokit.pem file. So this is the content of the PEM file. This content is belongs to private key. Whatever the key pair we are creating in the AWS cloud, public key will be created, private key will be created. Public key will be stored in the AWS cloud and it will provide private key for us. By using this private key, we are going to connect with our EC2 instance. By using this private key, we are going to connect with our EC2 instance. Are you able to follow me? Are you guys able to follow me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So what is key pair? What is the purpose of key pair in the AWS cloud, guys?
It is a
What is
key
the
to
purpose
connect
of this
with
key
the
pair in the
AWS
AWS cloud?
instance.
Securely connected to our machine.
It is used to connect with our machine securely. Okay. So when I create a EC2 instance, if I give my public IP, can you connect directly to my machine? I created one EC2 instance in the AWS cloud. If you know the public IP of my machine, can you connect with my machine directly, or you cannot
No.
connect with my machine directly?
No.
If we enable password authentication, then we can connect.
You need PEM file. First you need PEM file, then only you can connect. So AWS will store the public key. AWS will give the private key for us. When you want to connect, you need to use the PEM file. AWS will check this PEM file, private key content is matching with the public key content or not, then only connection will be established. Otherwise, connection will not be established. Once you connect by using key pair, then you can enable password authentication in the Linux machine. You can create the users, then you can connect with that machine by using username and password. But for first time when you want to connect, this PEM file is required. Oh, I hope you got the clarity. What is AMI, what is instance type, and what is key pair. Good. Next
So,
one.
sir, users only need a private key,
Yes,
not
sir.
the
We need
public.
only private key. Public key will be there in the AWS only. That is used for comparing the content. Our PEM file content, whatever the PEM file you are using, is it correct or not? AWS will compare our PEM file content, private key content with the public key content. If both are matching, that is a handshake success. Then the connection will be established. Otherwise, connection will be rejected. Got it?
Yes, I got it. Thank you.
Yeah. After this one, guys, when you are going to launch a machine, okay, for every machine, some network is required. For every machine, some network is required. Then only we can connect with that machine. In the AWS, to provide a network for the machine, there is a concept called VPC concept is available. What is VPC? VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud. That VPC will provide network required for the resources in the AWS cloud. Okay, so VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud. What is the purpose of that VPC in the AWS? VPC will provide the network which is required for the resources in the AWS cloud, guys. So we can create our own network and we can use the AWS provided network also. We can create our own network or we can use the network which is provided by AWS also, guys. Right? So here we are new to the AWS. We are new to AWS. We are not that much good in the networking in the AWS concept. Right? We are new to the AWS. We are not that much experienced in the networking concept in the AWS cloud. So for beginners, it is very difficult to deal with the networking in the AWS cloud. So when you are new to the AWS cloud, dealing with this networking will be very difficult for you. So that's why to make our learning process simple, AWS people provided one default network in the AWS account. That default network they provided in the AWS account is called as a default VPC. Whatever the network that AWS provided for you, that network is called as default VPC. By using that default VPC, we can create the resources. Okay, so when you go and click on edit here, VPC will be available. So there are two VPCs. One is a default VPC, another one is a custom VPC is available. Okay, you can select the VPC. This is the default VPC. The tag is available default. So that you can check in the VPC service in the AWS cloud. Networking, isolated cloud resources. Okay, so whatever the resources we are creating in the cloud, those resources will be isolated by using a network in the VPC. Who will create this VPC in the company, guys? DevOps team. DevOps team will set up all this infrastructure. Okay, so here for encouraging the learners, AWS provided one default VPC in order to run our application. So without VPC, you can't create that machine, guys. Without VPC, we cannot create our machine and we cannot access that machine also. Without VPC, we cannot create the machine, and without VPC, we cannot access that machine also. Okay. Are you able to follow me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good. Fine. Next one, security groups, guys. And when we create a machine, security groups concept will be available. So security groups, nothing but the firewalls. Okay, which traffic should come to our machine will be decided by security groups only. These security groups are part of network VPC. For every VPC, security groups will be available. Security groups are like security guard for our machine. That means who can come inside our machine, what can go outside from our machine. Suppose if you take a office company, for every company in the ground floor, security guard will be available. When someone is coming inside the gate, the security guard will check, whether that person is our employee or not. Okay, whether this employee is our company employee or not, whether he is having that ID card or not, we are going to check it. Security guard is going to check that. Similarly, when we have the EC2 machine, when somebody accessing our EC2 machine, we are going to check that security group is enabled or not. Security group rules are enabled or not. Okay, so when you go for security group, the firewalls will be available. In that firewall, inbound rules will be available and outbound rules will be available. Inbound rules will be available and outbound rules will be available when we go for that EC2 instance security groups. Okay, good. So what kind of security groups? If you take any machine, okay, one security group will be available, and one security group you can use for multiple machines also. How you can use one key pair to connect with multiple machines? Similarly, you can use one security group also to connect with multiple machines. You can use one security group also to connect with multiple machines. Now, let me take the existing machine. For example, I'm taking our Linux machine. For this Linux machine, here security tab is available. In the security tab, you can see the security group which is available. Let us select the security group. In this security group, two things are there. Inbound rules available, outbound rules available. Inbound rules will decide what traffic we should allow to come to our machine. Okay, which type of traffic should come to our machine. Inbound rules are used to define incoming traffic. Okay, inbound rules are used to define incoming traffic, guys. Okay, and similarly, we have outbound rules also in the security group. What is the meaning of outbound rules in the security traffic? Outbound rules are used to define outgoing traffic. Inbound rules are used to define incoming traffic. Outbound rules are used to allow outgoing traffic in our machine. Incoming traffic and outgoing traffic. Okay, so for every machine, you can add one or more security groups also. And understand one concept: one machine can have multiple security groups also. Okay, and one security group we can use for multiple machines also. One security group we can use for multiple machines also. Many to many, right? One security group you can add to multiple machines, and multiple machines can contain multiple security groups also. These security groups are used to define inbound rules and outbound rules. Inbound rules are used to allow incoming traffic, whereas outbound rules are used to allow outgoing traffic. One machine can have multiple security groups, and one security group we can use for multiple machines also. Are you clear with my point? Okay, and when you are going for the security group, okay, so we need to enable some protocols. Suppose if you are creating a Windows machine will run on the protocol RDP. For the RDP protocol, the port number 3389. So if you create a Windows machine in the AWS cloud, if you want to connect with that Windows machine, then you need to enable RDP protocol. How to enable it? So I'm coming to the security group. As I told you, for every EC2 machine, security group will be available. Go to this machine, select the security tab here. Then go to the security tab, click on security group. Then go and click on edit inbound rules. That means I want to modify the inbound rules. Okay, so already there are two rules enabled. SSH is enabled, HTTP is enabled. And if you delete this SSH protocol from the inbound rule, you cannot connect with your Linux machine, because Linux machines will work based on SSH protocol. If you want to connect with that Linux machine from the Git bash or from the mobile extra or from the putty, definitely SSH protocol should be enabled. How to enable it? Go to inbound rules, edit them, add the rule, select this as SSH and give the custom anywhere IPv4. SSH protocol will run on the port number 22. HTTP protocol, if you have web server, it will run on the port number 80. If you want to create a Windows machine and if you want to connect with the Windows machine, then we need to select RDP. RDP nothing but remote desktop. RDP will work on the port number 3389. Suppose if you create a MySQL database, if you want to connect with the MySQL database, then you need to enable MySQL protocol, which is 3306 port number. So these are the security group rules that we need to enable in the inbound. So these rules are used to allow the traffic. These rules are used to allow the traffic. Okay, security group will define the firewalls, inbound and outbound rules. Inbound rules are used to allow the incoming traffic for our machine. Outbound rules will allow outgoing traffic of our machine. One machine can have multiple security groups also, and one security group we can use for multiple machines also. Okay, good guys. Now when you go for Windows RDP protocol, Windows runs on RDP protocol. RDP protocol port number is 3389. And the next one, Linux machines available. Linux will run on the port number SSH, and for that 22 is the port number. Okay, and when you go for web servers, the web server will run on the protocol HTTP. HTTP protocol port number works on 80. And when you go for MySQL database in the AWS cloud, MySQL port number 3306. When you are using HTTPS connections, HTTPS connection will run based on 443. HTTP is on 80 port number, HTTPS is on 443 port number, MySQL database is 3306 port number. Okay, Windows means RDP 3389, Linux means SSH 22 port number, web server HTTP that is 80, MySQL which is 3306, HTTPS which is 443. Okay, one security group we can use for multiple machines also. Okay, and we can create multiple security groups. We can attach to one machine. These security groups are going to define the traffic inbound rules, outbound rules. That means which request can come to our machine, which request can go out from our machine, that we are going to decide. Are you able to follow me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yeah.
While connecting to the Linux system, we needed to connect HTTP, or we can delete that HTTP.
For only connecting with the Linux machine, HTTP you can delete. That's not required. Only for connecting
Only
with the Linux machine, SSH is required.
SSH key is only required, is fine.
SSH protocol we need to enable. PEM file is required. This SSH protocol you need to enable. Okay, only if you enable SSH with the 22 anywhere IPv4, then you can connect with that Linux machine.
Yeah, thank you.
Are you guys clear? Are you guys clear with this one?
Yes, sir.
What is inbound rule and what is outbound rule? Are you guys clear with what is inbound rule, what is outbound rule?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can anyone tell me what is inbound rule and what is outbound rule?
It's allow the traffic to the our mission. What are the traffic to allow our virtual mission?
Yes. Inbound rules, outbound rules are used to define the security groups, right? Which are used to allow the traffic. Okay, next one. So here, when you are creating a machine, VPC is required, which is for network. Security groups required, that is going to define what traffic should come inside, what traffic should go outside from our machine. For that, we are using security groups. And the next one, for our machine, some storage is required. For every computer, storage is required. So storage we can say in the form of hard disk. Earlier people used hard disk for the computers. Now people are using SSD for the storage. Okay, fine. So for our machine also some storage is required. When you are launching a machine, it will give you some storage by default. To provide the storage by default, there is a service, there is a concept in the EC2 which is called EBS. EBS stands for Elastic Block Store. EBS will provide the volumes. EBS stands for Elastic Block Store. EBS will provide the values, nothing but hard disk and some SSD will be available. When you are creating the EC2 machine, if your EC2 machine is Windows machine, that will provide you 30 GB storage by default. Are you getting my point? If you are creating Linux machine, it will provide you 8 GB by default. For Windows machines, 30 GB will be provided by default. For Linux machines, 8 GB will be provided by default. When you go for EC2, the max capacity that we can use, EBS value max capacity is 16 TB. 16 TB. Okay. EBS value max capacity is 16 TB, nothing but 16,000 GB storage we can get for our machine. 16,000 GB we can get for our machine in the AWS cloud. So, but if you go for 16 TB guys, lot of amount you need to pay. As part of the free tier, for Windows they are giving 30 GB, which is free of cost. For Linux machine they are giving 8 GB, which is free of cost. So that's why when you go and see the instance creation, first we are selecting the AMI, then we are selecting the instance type, then we are selecting key pair, network is available, storage, here storage is available. So that is called value, configure storage. So 8 GB, because I have selected my AMI as Amazon Linux AMI. For Linux by default, 8 GB storage will be available. Suppose if I select this key pair, if I select the instance type as a Windows, then if you observe the storage by default 30 GB is coming for the machine storage like hard disk or SSD. For Linux only 8 GB will be available. For Windows by default 30 GB will be available. The maximum capacity that we can use for the EBS value, that is 16 TB. Okay, so these are the components of the AWS EC2 guys. By using these components only, we are going to create the machines in the AWS cloud. Okay, so we are talking about EC2 service in the AWS cloud. EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. It is used to create virtual servers, or we can say it is used to create machines in the AWS cloud. It is one of the most famous service in the AWS cloud, and it is a paid service. Hourly billing will be generated. If you use it 10 minutes and if you stop the machine, the 10 minutes will be calculated as 1 hour only, because the minimum billing period is 1 hour in the AWS cloud. To encourage new learners, AWS provided T2 Micro for free of cost. Monthly 750 hours you can run it for free. And in the EC2, there are several components available. If you want to create a virtual machine in the AWS cloud, we need to know about AMI, instance type, key pair, VPC, security groups, and storage. All right. AMI will represent software's configuration required for the machine. That means which operating system you want for your machine. Windows or Linux, what you want, that you can select by using AMI. AMI stands for Amazon Machine Image. And the next one, instance type is available. Instance type will represent our machine configuration. T2 micro, T2 medium, T2 large instances will be available. T2 micro instance is free tier eligible, 1 year free, monthly 750 hours, it is free of cost. And coming to key pair. Key pair is used to establish secured connection with our machines. AWS will provide the public key and private key. Public key will be stored in the AWS and private key will be provided to us. When you want to connect with that EC2, we need to use that private key. If a private key content is matching with the public key, then only we can connect with that. Okay, so one key pair we can use for multiple EC2 instances also. And coming to VPC. VPC nothing but virtual private network. It will provide the network required for the EC2 instances, guys. Whatever the network is required for the machines, that will be provided by VPC. Without network, we cannot access those machines, right? Network is very important. So here, default VPC will be available. Okay, network for EC2 instances. Network for AWS resources basically. Provides network for It provides network for AWS resources. So to encourage learners, to encourage beginners, AWS providing one default VPC. So creating network is little complex process in the AWS, guys. So you should have some idea on IP addresses, okay, internet gateways, subnetting, what is net subnet, what is internet gateway, what is NAT gateway, what is route table. So a lot of concepts involved in the VPC, right? So here, as you are new to the AWS, you don't have the idea on all the networking concepts. So without having the idea on the networking concepts, how to create the machines, that's where AWS provided one default VPC to create the machines. Okay, fine. Next one, for every machine, we are going to add the security group. That security group will decide the inbound and outbound rules. Firewall rules will be available. Inbound rules are used to allow the incoming traffic for our machine. Outbound rules are used to allow outgoing traffic of our machine. So in one machine, we can have multiple security groups also. So on one security group, you can use for multiple machines also. And what type of security rules we are going to enable? If it is Windows machine, RDP we will enable. If it is a Linux machine, SSH protocol we will enable. Without SSH protocol in the security group inbound rule, we cannot connect with that machine. And web server will be available, which is HTTP protocol 80. MySQL database will be available, which will run on the port number 3306. HTTPS will be available, which is 443. So like this, one security group we can use for multiple machines also. And for every machine, some storage is required. To provide the storage for the machine, we have EBS volumes. EBS volumes will be available for the storage. It is like a hard disk for our machine. So when you go for Windows machine, 30 GB storage will be available. When you go for Linux machine, 8 GB storage will be available. And the volume maximum capacity in the AWS is 16 TB. The max capacity of the volume is 16 TB, nothing but 16,000 GB will be available when you go for a machine in the AWS cloud. When you go for a machine in the AWS cloud, by default, that GB is for the free time. If you want more GB, up to 16,000 GB you can take, that is the maximum capacity, but all the 16,000 GB not free of cost. For Windows, 30 GB is free. For Linux, 8 GB is free. Are you able to follow me? Are you able to follow me?
Yes, sir.
What are the resources available to create a machine in the AWS cloud? And we already created the machine, but without knowing, as part of our Linux classes, we created one machine. But at that time, our focus on the Linux, not on the AWS. At that time, without knowing all these details, we created a machine in the AWS. Now, so when you are creating a machine in the AWS, you need to keep all these things in your mind. We need to select AMI. We need to select instance type. We need to select a key pair. We need to select VPC. We need to select a security group, and we need to select storage also. So with these components only, we are going to launch one machine in the AWS cloud. Are you able to follow me?
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Sir,
Yeah.
having
Any
one
questions
doubt.
so far?
Yes, sir. Sir, in security groups, we have inbound and outbound rules, right?
Yes.
Here we have option stores. So
Sorry?
always we need in the inbound and outbound
Your
rules.
voice
We have
is low, man. Speak loudly.
Sir, am I audible now?
Yes, you are audible.
Sir, in the security groups, we have option like inbound and outbound rules, right?
Correct.
So here we have an option like source. So always we need to choose IPv4 or what?
I'm not getting your question, sir.
Can you go to the console, EC2 console?
Yes.
So there we have options like anywhere and IVPs, something
Anywhere
like.
IPv4 means we are giving the option to any request which is coming to our application.
That is
Anywhere
correct, sir.
option
Sir,
VPC6, they asking about that.
Anywhere IPv4, anywhere IPv6 means, so the request coming from which IP address? IPv4. There are two types of IPs available, IP version 4 and IP version 6. I want to allow the request which is coming from any IP version 4 address. Generally, IPv4 means the request which is coming from any machine, I want to allow that.
but then when we need to choose IPv6?
IPv6 currently we are not using, sir. There are two types of IPs available. IPv4, nothing but IP contains 4 octets will be available. When you go for IPv version 6, 8 octets will be available. It's completely networking concept. So when you go for IPv version 4, IP address contains only numbers. When you go for IP version 6, IP contains alphanumeric values. So if you have some idea on IP categories, IP classes, then you will understand it. Currently, we don't need that.
In the real time, we need to use IPv4 only, right?
4. Currently, we are using 4 only.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sir, I have one doubt.
Yes, sir.
Sir, we are installing the dependencies on the Linux machine, and also we are creating some files in the Linux machine. Everything, whatever you are installing or you are creating the files, it will be stored on the EBS only.
It will be stored on the EBS, correct? That is the storage, right? In our machine, we are using a laptop. You are creating files in the laptop. You are downloading the files in the laptop. Where it will be stored? In the hard disk only, right?
Yes.
Same concept. In the Linux also. So in the Windows, we call it as a hard disk. In the Linux, AWS Linux, it is called EBS value. EBS nothing but elastic block store, which will provide the storage required for our machine. Whatever the files you are creating, everything will be stored in the EBS only.
Okay. And also you said the private key and the public key. Private key is download the PUM file in our local.
Correct.
And also public key is stored in the AWS.
Correct.
But the content in the both the files is same.
Content will be different. They will match it. If this content is matching with that content, they will have some algorithm to compare the content, right?
Okay. Yes, sir.
They will compare that. They will use some algorithm to compare the content of whatever the PEM file you are using, whatever the PEM file already there in the AWS. If it is matching, then only you can connect. Otherwise, your connection will not be accepted. You got my point?
Yes, sir, I got it.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I have message on you on WhatsApp. Please check
Sure,
it.
sir. I will reply to you.
Sir, and one more thing I want to ask: if the MacBook also is compatible to it or no?
Not, sir. For practice purpose for students, MacBook is not recommended, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
And for Windows, which laptop is
I will suggest you, sir. I will send you the link for that.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Next one, guys. In the AWS, whenever you create a EC2 machine, in order to connect with that EC2 machine, we need some IP address. Okay. For every machine, IP address will be generated. By using that IP address only, we can connect with the machine. IP address, nothing but the IP means the address of the machine. So to access that machine, to represent that machine, we need one IP address. So how many types of IP addresses will be available in the AWS cloud? So whenever you are dealing with EC2 instances in the AWS cloud, you can see 3 types of IPs. Okay. When you are dealing with the AWS EC2 instances, we can see 3 types of IPs in the AWS cloud. So what are those 3 types of IPs in the AWS cloud? So whenever you create a machine, AWS will provide one IP address that is called private IP. Private IP is nothing but fixed IP address for internal communication. So you cannot use private IP to connect with the machine because of VPC. Whenever there is a network, VPC network, within the VPC only, we can connect with the machines by using private IP. For public access, you can't use the private IP. So if you go for the AWS, whenever you are dealing with EC2 instances in the AWS, you can see 3 types of IPs in the AWS cloud. What are those 3 types of IPs? One is called private IP. Private IP is nothing but fixed IP address for the internal communication. Private IP nothing but fixed IP address for the internal communication. And the next one, public IP will be available. public IP is available for outside access. For outside access, and it is dynamic IP. It is a dynamic IP. What is the meaning of dynamic IP? When we restart the machine, public IP gets changed. When we restart VM, then public IP gets changed. Okay, so there are three types of IPs. First one is public IP, private IP. Second one is public IP, and the difference between the private IP and public IP. So whenever you create one EC2 instance in the AWS cloud, private IP will be assigned for that. That private IP is a fixed IP address which is used for internal communication. Private IP address is a fixed IP address that is used for internal communication. And public IP will be available. That public IP is used for outside access, and the public IP address is a dynamic IP address. When we restart our virtual machine, then our public IP gets changed. When we restart our VM, then public IP gets changed. And the third one, elastic IP in the AWS, guys. Third one is elastic IP in the AWS. So it is a fixed public IP. It is a fixed public IP. That means every time when I restart the machine, I don't want to change the IP address. Whenever I restart my machine, I don't want to change my IP address. Then we are going to use elastic IP, which is fixed public IP. It is a commercial IP. It is commercial. When you use the elastic IP, bill will be generated. When you use elastic IP, bill is going to generate in the AWS. Okay, how many types of IPs available in the AWS cloud, guys? Can you tell me how many types of IPs available in the AWS?
Private, public, and
There are three types of IPs available in the AWS. What are those three types of IPs in the AWS? One is called private IP, nothing but fixed IP address. If you restart the machine also, private IP will not get changed. Okay, that private IP is a fixed IP address, and the private IP address is used for internal communication only. The private IP is used for internal communication only. And the next one, public IP is available, which is used for outside access. So that means currently we are connecting to that Linux machine from our Windows machine. That is the outside connection. From Windows, if you want to connect with the Linux machine, public IP only we are using. And the public IP is a dynamic IP. What is the meaning of dynamic IP? When we restart that VM, then public IP gets changed. Okay. Then if you don't want to change that, then you need to go for one fixed IP address. That fixed IP address will be provided by AWS Cloud. That is called elastic IP. So when you use elastic IP, bill will be generated because elastic IPs are not free of cost. Elastic IPs are not free of cost. Are you able to follow me? Now, let's observe here, guys. I have a Linux machine. I'm selecting my Linux machine. Currently in this Linux machine, public IP is available or public IP is not available?
Not available.
But private IP is available, because if you restart the machine also, private IP will not get changed. Only one fixed private IP address will be available for the machine. All right. Now let me go and start this machine. Click on start this machine. Okay. My machine is getting started. Once the machine is started, you observe public IP will be allocated for this machine. Now you see public IP I got for this machine now. You remember what is the public IP we have for this machine now? And I will restart the machine. Then we can see that public IP is changed or not changed. So every time when you restart the machine, that public IP gets changed, guys. When you restart the machine, public IP gets changed. Now see, my machine is running. Private IP is the same. That is not changed. Let me note down the private IP first. Okay. So this is my private IP. This is my private IP. And the next one, this is my public IP. This is my public IP only. This is my public IP. Okay, guys. Next one. I'm going to stop and start the same machine again. Now you observe the public IP and private IP of the machine. Currently, my Linux machine is running. Public IP available, private IP available. I have noted down the private IP of the machine and public IP of the machine also. Now let me go and stop the machine. When I stop the machine, so if I run for 2 minutes also, 1 hour bill will be generated. It is going to calculate the minimum billing period as 1 hour. It is going to calculate the minimum billing period as 1 hour. Now I am stopping the machine. Once the machine is stopped, public IP will be removed. Public IP will be removed, only private IP will be available because the public IP is a dynamic IP. Public IP is a dynamic IP. Now you see, my machine is stopped successfully. Can you see public IP is available or public IP not available?
Not available.
Not available, but private IP is still available because it is fixed IP address. Private IP address is a fixed IP address that is used for internal communication. Internal communication nothing but within the VPC. So a network will be created in the AWS. Within the network, one machine can connect with another machine by using private IP. But we cannot use private IP from outside. Using Git bash, you can't use the private IP to connect with the machine. So from the Git bash, if you want to connect with the machine, you need to use public IP only. That public IP is a dynamic IP. When I stop the machine, public IP got removed. Now let me start it again. Now you see different public IP address will come now. That is the meaning of dynamic IP address. Whenever you restart your machine, that IP will be removed and it will be changed. Every time it will give the new public IP address for the machine. That's why we are going to call it as a dynamic IP. That's why we are going to call it as a dynamic IP. Guys, can you see earlier IP and this IP is same or different?
It is different.
Different. Let me copy this and let me show you after restart. Same or different?
It is different, sir.
Different, sir.
It is different. So what is the meaning of this?
Dynamic.
Public IP is dynamic IP.
Dynamic IP. Okay. Now guys, so if you want to work with the elastic IP, I'm giving the steps for you. Can you guys complete these steps now? For one time, there is no problem. If you want to deal with elastic IP, this is the process. Can anybody try this elastic IP now? What is the meaning of elastic IP?
Static
What is the meaning of
IP.
elastic IP?
Static IP
Public
same as
IP address will
same
be
as
fixed.
Fixed
Same
public IP
public
address.
IP.
So I'm giving 2 minutes of time. Can anyone do this practice and let me know? I will be back in 2 minutes, guys.
Okay.
Hello, Ashok sir.
Hello.
Hello, Ashok sir.
Guys, anybody able to do the practice now? Anybody able to do the practice on the elastic IP? So what is the meaning of elastic IP? Can anyone tell me?
It is a fixed public IP.
So as we have seen, there are three types of IPs available in the AWS. One is private IP, another one is public IP, another one is elastic IP. Okay. So here, if you go for private IP, it is a fixed, it will not change also, but it is not for outside access. For outside access, we are going to use public IP. The public IP is used for outside access. Public IP is used for outside access, but it is dynamic. Every time when you restart the machine, the IP is going to change. I want a public IP address that should not change every time. Then we are going for elastic IP. Elastic IP is called as a fixed public IP. Elastic IP is called as fixed public IP address. How to deal with elastic IP? And remember one point, elastic IPs are not free. Elastic IP is commercial. I will show you how to create the elastic IP, how to attach the elastic IP to our machine. So if you go to EC2 service, guys, then in the EC2 service, under networking concept, there is an option called elastic IPs option is available. Click on elastic IPs. Here in my account currently, there is no elastic IP address is available because people will not use as part of the practice because it is paid. Now there is an option called allocate elastic IP address. So go to EC2 dashboard, go to EC2 service. Under the network and security concept, there is a elastic IP option is available, and go here, click on allocate elastic IP address. Okay, so now just go and click on allocate. So when you click on allocate elastic IP address, AWS will provided one IP address for you. This is allocated elastic IP address for us. This is allocated elastic IP address for us. So what I have done, go to network, click on elastic IPs, click on allocate elastic IP. That means allocate elastic IP address means take the IP address from the AWS. Once you take this IP address from the AWS, you associate this elastic IP with a machine. Allocation means taking the new IP. Association means using that IP. So click on associate this elastic IP address for which instance you want to associate. So this is my Linux machine which is running. Okay, this is the Linux machine. You can see the remaining machines are in the stopped state. This machine is in the running state. Okay, I am choosing this machine and choose the private IP address of this machine. For this machine, I'm using elastic IP. This is my elastic IP address. Okay, so you check this. You check this. Elastic IP address. For my machine, what is the public IP available? This is the public IP available after restart. Now I am taking elastic IP. This is the elastic IP. Click on associate. So with this, for my machine, elastic IP address associated successfully. Now go to EC2 dashboard. See the elastic IP 109.191.161. Go to EC2 dashboard, check my machine which is running, check its IP address. So normal IP is available or elastic IP is available for this machine now. Now you see this is my elastic IP I created. For this machine, which public IP address available? Normal public IP available or elastic IP is available? Elastic IP is available. So what is the advantage with this elastic IP?
The public IP will be fixed.
Even if you restart that machine also, the IP address is not going to change. So I hope you understand what are the three types of IPs available in the AWS. Private IP, which is fixed, that is used for internal communication. Public IP, which is a dynamic. Every time when you restart the machine, IP is going to change. Okay, if you don't want to change the IP address every time, if you want a fixed public IP address for your machine, then you are going to take elastic IP. You need to allocate the elastic IP, then you need to associate that elastic IP. Okay, here the steps I have given in order to do the practice. So lab work on the elastic IP. Allocate elastic IP that you are going to get from the AWS. Associate elastic IP to EC2 instance. Then you restart the EC2 instance and you check IP address will not change. So once your practice is completed, you remove elastic IP from your machine and you release the elastic IP to AWS. If you keep it, bill will be generated. So how to avoid this billing? Let's go here. My machine is available, right? Elastic IP is available. I already associated this IP with my EC2 instance. So first I need to deassociate. Select it, action, associate is available. I need to go for deassociate. Okay, deassociate. Associate elastic IP means give it to machine. Deassociate means remove from the machine. Deassociate elastic IP. That means I'm removing the elastic IP from my machine. It is deassociated successfully. Once it is deassociated, then we need to release it. Release means give it back to AWS. Release elastic IP address. Release means I am giving it back to AWS. Now, in my AWS account, no elastic IPs are available. First, I have allocate IP means take the IP. Then associate means give it to machine. Then after, you can deassociate from the machine. Then you can release it back to AWS to avoid the billing. Okay. So this is the concept of IP addresses in the AWS. This is the concept of IP addresses in the AWS. Are you able to follow me? Good. Any questions on this one, guys? With this today, I'm stopping. Tomorrow, we are going to work on load balancer concept in the AWS. Yeah. Any questions, anyone?
Suppose we allocated the IP address and we used it and we deallocated it. So there is no bill will happen.
1 hour, less than 1 hour. So it is negligible amount. If you use it for days of time, then bill will be generated.
Okay, fine.
One question, like we used EPS for memory storage, right? In
Yes.
network SSD.
Yes.
So we have like in instance 2 GB for free and paid for 4 GB, 8 GB system. That
1
for
GB only free, sir.
so what is purpose of those GB? I mean 2 GB, 4 GB. I mean
So
which
that is
kind?
system performance, right? A RAM speed.
Okay,
Processing. GB RAM is used to process the data. If you have a RAM with a high capacity, your processing will be speed and your machine will be faster.
okay, good.
Sir, once you have deallocated the IP address, then you did not remove from the that IP address, then what will happen?
Sorry, can you come? Bill will generate, sir. If you don't use it, also bill will generate. So everything bill. That's why we are removing and we are releasing back. Okay, good. Any other questions, anyone?
Can
good morning, Ashok.
use case
Yeah, hi,
scenario
sir.
where elastic IP is used?
Sir, in the real time, I am setting up my Jenkins server. So my Jenkins server should have a fixed IP address. My Jenkins server will be available on the Linux machine. Every time I don't want to change that IP, then we will use elastic IP for that. And the company client will pay the bill amount. Yes, sir. Tell me, who is asking some question?
Yeah, good morning, Ashok.
Yeah, hi, good morning.
Yeah, my question was that AWS, like you said, they are giving the machines at the go side. Like
Yeah.
whenever we are creating the project in the company,
Yeah.
my simple doubt. So we are getting a big requirement for like development. Also, we need good amount of hardwares. So for the development of the good amount of hardwares, like AWS is providing the AMIs, Windows, Linux, all base OS.
Yes.
So why we are not developing our own softwares, or developers are not working on the AWS machines? Why we need physical machines, high configuration machines?
Sir, for a development purpose, you don't need virtual machines, sir, because developers are working from, you need one computer, right, to do the coding.
Yes,
if you
yes,
have a
yes.
virtual machine also, to connect to the virtual machine, again, you need one machine.
Yeah.
So that is the reason for development purpose, they will give the physical machines. For project execution, for servers, they will go with the virtual machines.
Okay, because nowadays cloud-based environment is there. We need to get big amount of machines. Simple machine we can
Only
connect
for
through.
development purpose, 8 GB, 16 GB RAM machines are required for every team member to join the meetings in the company, to prepare some slides, to give some demos, to write the code. You need one machine. So those machines, they will give physical machines for your development purpose. So when I'm talking about infrastructure at the project execution level, project deployment level, all the resources that we need will be configured in the cloud only.
Okay, means development we will do in the physical local
Yes,
environment only.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Good. With this, I'm stopping for today, and we'll continue tomorrow. Tomorrow, we are going to talk about another important topic in the EC2, which is called a load balancer. What is a load balancer? How to set up load balancer in the AWS cloud? We are going to learn in the tomorrow session. Okay?
Sir, is it internal feature of AWS or using any other Docker or Kubernetes we are going to achieve
For which
it?
one?
For load balancing.
Internal AWS only.
Okay.
In the AWS, there is a concept called load balancer concept that we will learn tomorrow.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Have a great day. And
Sir,
we'll see you
please
in
send the
tomorrow's session.
laptop list.
Sure, Sudhanshu, I will send you that.
Please. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Anybody interested for Spring Boot? From today, the regular main classes are starting. Spring Boot link I have shared. So if you're interested, you can attend those classes from 9:30 a.m.